Factoring polynomials, the sum and difference of two cubes. First, what is a perfect cube? A perfect cube is a number that is the cube of an integer. For example, 125 is a perfect cube since 125 is equal to 5 times 5 times 5, which is also equal to 5 cubed. What is a cube root? The opposite of cubing a number is finding the cube root. Since 5 cubed is equal to 125, the cube root of 125 is 5. In symbols, we have this one. The cube root of a perfect cube is an integer. It is possible to get the cube root of a negative number. For example, the cube root of negative 125 is equal to negative 5. Let's proceed. A polynomial in the form a cubed plus b cubed is called the sum of two cubes. To factor, we need to follow the formula below. We have a cubed plus b cubed is equal to the product of the binomial a plus b and the trinomial a squared minus ab plus b squared. Meron po tayong note dito. The acronym SOAP is an easy way to remember the order of signs or operations in factoring the sum of two cubes. So, S stands for same sign, O, opposite sign, and AP, that's always positive. Same sign dahil ang operation po natin dito ay addition. So, we have plus or positive. Opposite sign, minus or negative. Always positive, this is always positive or plus sign. Next, a polynomial in the form a cubed minus b cubed is called the difference of two cubes. To factor, we need to follow the formula below. We have a cubed minus b cubed is equal to the product of the binomial a minus b and the trinomial a squared plus ab plus b squared. So again, we can use the acronym SOAP para po maalala natin ang order of signs and operations in factoring difference of two cubes. Since minus sign po ang meron tayo sa difference of two cubes, this is same sign, opposite sign, and this is always positive. Let's have an example. In this case, we have x cubed plus 64. Ang magiging pattern po natin ay a cubed plus b cubed is equal to the product of the binomial a plus b and the trinomial a squared minus ab plus b squared. First step, determine the cube root of the first term of the given binomial. In this case po, ang ating given binomial ay x cubed plus 64. And our first term here is x cubed. So we need to get the cube root of x cubed, which is equal to x. Next step, determine the cube root of the second term of the given binomial. So ang second term naman po natin dito ay 64. So get the cube root of 64, which is equal to positive 4. Next, we can now identify the binomial factor, which is x plus 4. In this case po, pwede na po nating sabihin na si x ay ang ating a at si 4 ang ating b sa ating pattern na ito. Next step, determine the square of the first term of the binomial factor. Ang ating binomial factor po ay x plus 4. Ang ating first term dito ay x. So we need to square it. So the answer is x squared. Next, determine the product of the cube roots. So ang mga cube roots po natin ay x at 4. Multiply lang po natin sila para makuha si 4x. Last step, determine the square of the second term of the binomial factor. Sa ating binomial factor na x plus 4, 4 is our second term. So square lang po natin siya, ang magiging sagot po ay 16. So ang ating final answer, we have x cubed plus 64 is equal to, ang magiging factored form po niya ay ang product po ng binomial x plus 4 at ang trinomial na x squared minus 4x plus 16. So again, we use the acronym SOAP to identify the order of the signs or operation. This is same sign, opposite sign, and this is always positive. Next example, we have y cubed minus 216. At ang pattern po natin dito ay a cubed minus b cubed is equal to the product of the binomial a minus b and the trinomial a squared plus ab plus b squared. First step, determine the cube root of the first term of the given binomial. The given binomial is y cubed minus 216. Ang ating first term is y cube. Cube root of y cube is equal to y. Next step, determine the cube root of the second term of the given binomial. Ang ating second term po ay 216. The cube root of 216 is equal to 6. At magkakaroon na po tayo ng binomial factor which is y minus 6. This is our A and this is our B in this pattern. Next, determine the square of the first term of the binomial. So ang ating first term po sa ating binomial factor ay y. So we need to square it, that's y squared. Next, determine the product of the cube roots. Ang cube roots po natin ay y at 6. We multiply them to get 6y. And last step, determine the square of the second term of our binomial factor, which is y minus 6. Ang second term po natin dyan ay 6. We need to square it. So we have 36. And our final answer is y cubed minus 216 is equal to the product of the binomial y minus 6 and the trinomial y squared plus 6y plus 36 following the acronym SOAP. Same sign, opposite sign, always positive. Next example, we have 2m raised to 4 minus 54m. First, identify po muna natin kung merong greatest common factor ang mga terms sa ating binomial. In this case po, meron po tayong 2m as our GCF. We need to factor out the GCF in the given binomial. So ang kakalabasan po ay 2m times the binomial m cubed minus 27. So paano ko po nakuha si m cubed minus 27? We have 2m raised to 4 divided by 2m. So that's m cubed minus 54m divided by 2m, makukuha po natin ay 27. Ngayon po ay meron po tayong m cubed minus 27 which is an example of difference of two cubes. Kunin po muna natin ang cube root ni m cubed which is m. Next, kunin po natin ang cube root ni 27 which is 3. At ang pattern po natin dito ay a cubed minus b cubed is equal to the product of the binomial a minus b and the trinomial a squared plus ab plus b squared. Ang magsisilbing a po natin ay m at ang b po natin ay 3. So following the pattern po, ang magiging sagot po natin ay 2m which is the GCF times the binomial m minus 3 and the trinomial m squared plus 3m plus 9. So following the pattern po, ito po ang ating a minus b. This is our a squared plus ab plus b squared. Again, following po ang ating acronym SOAP which is same sign, opposite sign, and always positive. Ang sunod po natin pag-uusapan is all about factoring by grouping. In some cases, there is no common factor for all the terms in a polynomial. If you have 4 or more terms with no GCF, then we can use factoring by grouping. We have the steps here. First, we need to group the terms that have a common monomial factor. There will be usually 2 groups and sometimes the terms must be rearranged. Number 2, factor out the common monomial factor from each group. And number 3, we need to factor out the binomial factor. Example number 1, 12x cubed minus 9x squared plus 8x minus 6. So first step, we need to group the terms that have a common monomial factor. So in this case po, ginrupo ko po ang ating given into 2 groups. We have 12x cubed minus 9x squared as our first group, plus the second group, 8x minus 6. Next, we need to factor out the common monomial factor from each group. In the first group, ang common monomial factor po natin ay 3x squared. At sa second group naman po, ang ating common monomial factor ay 2. So we need to factor out the common monomial factor, kaya po ang kakalabasan po, we have 3x squared times the quantity 4x minus 3 plus 2 times the quantity 4x minus 3. Saan po natin nakuha si 4x minus 3? First, in the first group po, 12x cubed divided by 3x squared is equal to 4x. Minus 9x squared divided by 3x squared is equal to 3. At sa pangalawang grupo naman po, 8x divided by 2, we have 4x. Minus 6 divided by 2 is 3. Next step po natin, we need to factor out the common binomial factor. And obviously, our common binomial factor here is 4x minus 3. So we have 4x minus 3 times the binomial 3x squared plus 2. So pag-iisahin lang po natin si 4x minus 3 dito at ang matitirang 3x squared plus 2 ay mapupunta po dito sa pangalawa. At ang magiging factored form po ng 12x cubed minus 9x squared plus 8x minus 6 is equal to the product of the binomials 4x minus 3 and 3x squared plus 2. Next example, we have 2mx plus 2ny plus 4my plus nx. First po, we need to rearrange and group the terms that have a common monomial factor. In this case po, ginrupo ko po sila at inarrange ko sila base sa mga common monomial factor nila. Sa first group po, we have 2mx plus 4my. At sa second group, we have nx plus 2ny. Factor out the common monomial factor from each group. Ang common monomial factor po sa first group natin is 2m. Sa second group po ay n. So we need to factor out the common monomial factor. So ang kakalabasan po ay 2m times the quantity x plus 2y plus n times the quantity x plus 2y. Next, we need to factor out the common binomial factor, and in this case po, ang ating common binomial factor ay x plus 2y. So ang magiging sagot po natin, x plus 2y times the binomial 2m plus n. So pag-isahin lang po ulit natin si x plus 2y at ang matitira ay 2m plus n. At siya po ang mapupunta dito. So the factored form of 2mx plus 2ny plus 4my plus nx is equal to the product of the binomials x plus 2y and 2m plus n.